If you really look at their mission statements now and their way of working, many of them are increasingly expanding that. And the frame, once you expand, you go into other people's framework. Amnesty International wasn't concerned about economic and social cultural rights until 4 or 5 years ago. But you will see that they are doing their biggest campaign is on maternal mortality, which is what CARE or Oxfam used to do in the past, Plan International. Similarly, all development wallahs are trying to do human rights-based approach. So human rights and human security has become an overarching global framework for us to come together. That does mean overlap, unity, and all kinds of challenges. And the mission expansion from poverty to human rights to social justice is very widespread as well. And I think this will mean, I hope this is not simply the change of letters in the mission statement, but this does require, this framework will push us to do different things probably, and certainly things differently. But if I read international NGO and you talk to them, they are more preoccupied with their organization form, because that's in their control to change. Everybody's trying to reinvent their organization, want to be international, dabble with the reorganization and restructuring. But they are also being under pressure. Business model. I mean, this is a business plan, business model are very prevalent. We're being pushed into international NGOs, and this is also part of the enterprise. Considers international NGOs as an enterprise or a business, and this has an impact. But very busy. Lots of international NGOs and an accountability framework. There's a lot of pressure to show the results. And that means that everybody's busy trying to reinvent, invent, or try and be a bit more accountable. And these are all with some consequences. And I also find that, it's frustrating in some ways, because suddenly there's a big search for theory of change. So it's a big buzzword, and I have a feeling, I keep saying that this is also given to us by consultant and business sector. But it does have some meaning. So what kind of change we want to bring? Everybody is trying to make the programs better. And why? I mean, so I'm trying to go into the depth of that at the moment. But it seems like it's, do NGOs, are they so preoccupied with their internally, they're trying to reinvent, reorganize because the person has changed, the leaders have changed? Or is it really in response to the bigger change? I am not yet clear, and I'd love to hear if you know. I say unholy alliances, just I actually believe it as well. I mean, you know that the international NGO, particularly humanitarian, and all big international NGOs, in fact, many of them call themselves humanitarian NGOs, because that's actually, humanitarian work is the one which brings money and profile, although it's very messy. And if you keep your eyes and ears open, there will be a massive attack on international NGO on the back of an anniversary of the Haiti earthquake for sure. And you will hear all the good, bad, and ugly of the international NGOs. And so what has happened is, and in Haiti or in Afghanistan, I think the relationship between humanitarian NGO and military is quite deep. So much so that the development is done with the protection of the allied forces. And whether that's the right thing to do, with the exception of probably one or two NGOs, I think MSF is probably an exception that they are very vocal about they don't want to be. Otherwise, we are constantly asking for security to be provided by often occupied forces and international forces, whether it's in Congo or in Afghanistan or in Haiti, and they have very different kinds of emergencies. But at the same time, coming closer to corporations, I think working with corporates, being part of that corporation, not only through philanthropic mode, but actually directly, is an increasing preoccupation of the bigger international NGOs. And some are experimenting, others are wholesale ready to go there, some are reluctant. So I think there's a whole range in that. So I think that's what they are doing. So what will happen in the future, and what should happen? Question marks and so on. This is my last slide, so you will be able to lead, and we can have a conversation. Future, I think you will. What I find, one of the things which I didn't quite realize is how much we have become a part of a system, aid industry. I think there are international NGOs. Not all international NGOs in that colorful chart are part of aid industry. And by what do I mean by aid industry? Means it's an official aid system, institutionalized. I don't consider individual person giving within the aid industry. I think that's a citizen's action, and I'll come to that because that's a solidarity, that's a charity, and in some cases maybe duty. But basically, I mean by mega dollars of the global aid industry, and I think by being in the aid industry, by being, I will say later on, by being part of a corporation, and I think our NGOs, particularly international NGOs, and international NGO, as I said, with the exception of BRAC, which is in Bangladesh, every single international NGO originated in the high-income countries, or Europe, or North America, or Australia. Therefore, are they promoting a certain kind? I mean, there are many kinds of NGOs, but whether you become a part of a system that you are really, which politics, which theory of global civil society, and in which international NGOs should exist, is a very strong part of it. Are they part of promoting a particular system, or you part of you want to put outside? But certainly, I say aid industry. I think international NGO will have to think whether they are part of, not least because the money will be less perhaps even in few years, although for this year, in this immediate years, we haven't seen any major decline because money has been committed, and we hope that it will. But I think there may be a decline or change or diversion of aid itself, and what will happen to an international NGO. And also the kind of things we need to do, can we do by being part of a system which in itself is a problem. Because the idea of aid, I mean, once the aid is supposed to be redundant at some point in time, and if you be part of the system, then you are less likely to work toward the redundancy of the aid itself. Anyway, one of the conjecture. Constituency and home there is a paradox in international NGOs. Majority of the international NGOs don't talk to poor people in the country that they are based, and don't talk to the rich people where they want to eradicate poverty. So we have this paradox at the moment, and that's not going to last very long, not least because the nature of work. It was fine when you were just building schools, that you didn't talk to rich people, you transport building materials, construct and go out. But with the rise of middle class, the expansion of mission into social justice, it's just not possible to talk to people who are not poor. And similarly, I think unless you can, how to derive legitimacy, contact, citizenship, and the role will be very important. What do international NGOs consider their roles are? And if you know, I mean, those of you who are old enough to know, the development in my time when I was starting was transfer of resources. Some people have, other people have not, and then as long as you connected that dot, you're fine. But we need to transfer much more than money and technology now. Transfer of power is the sort of a link to social justice is what needs to happen. So I think it is very important for to have a constituency and to actually get out of this paradox. And the role clarity, what do we want to be? Are we part of a transfer system of money? Are we intermediary between corporations or governments? Are we intermediary between two countries? Or we are citizens organizations that connect citizens to citizens. And I think this will change the way we work, who we talk to, how we raise money, and it's very important for us to. And I think international NGO will be challenged on that, and I think that we should clarify that. This is not to say that we need a monolith of a particular kind, but I think the purpose of social justice, human rights, development is different from running social enterprises or just being a financial conduit of an aid industry. I think the new forms of size, relationship, I do not know whether the mega international NGO structure will hold. And 2.2 billion is like almost a country really, if you feel. And will NGOs lose that agility, that politics? So I think the size, every organization has a plan to grow. but the quality of that growth is going to be different, I think. I think the growth, a more unitary or monolithic growth versus the growth of networks is an important organizational form distinction. But there will be lots, whether there's a forms of organization or kind of relationship. Is it okay, should CARE and Oxfam talk more, or it should be actually somebody else, disability organization? I think should we have, what kind of relationship different international NGOs need to have to actually have the size of influence and but not be unitary growth of bureaucracy, because I think that's a problem at the moment. And north, south, south, south. I mean, I feel that in about 15 years' time, we will write only in the history side of the ActionAid or Oxfam or Greenpeace that it was founded in the United States. There will be a lot more money, I hope, from Mexicans and Brazilians and Chinese in that Oxfam pot, because quite clearly Oxfam, there will be Oxfam China, and there's already Oxfam India, and there's already Oxfam Mexico. The international organization will be much more global and more international. I keep saying the international NGO is a nice name given by international NGO to themselves, because otherwise they are non-foreign NGOs. So I think that will change considerably, because there will be much more democratic table between Oxfam America and Oxfam India already starting. So I think the relationship will change. BRAC is already coming, so there will be more, quite apart from this branded bigger international NGO becoming more democratic and more international, there will be no doubt Brazilian and Indian and South African NGOs will cross the boundaries and will have international roles, as BRAC from Bangladesh has already started to. It works in 11 countries, and it's got something like $400 million annual budget and an asset of about $500 million. So it's a mega organization which is coming into, including the United States, in a slightly different manner. I think that voluntarism, I think voluntarism has gone out from voluntarism, and citizens' actions and NGOs have sort of parted company. I don't know how it happened. But I think we'll have to reclaim, not least because we've got lots of young people and old people who will be unemployed, and we need to make sure that their energy is not wasted, but also because if you want to have a part of citizens' action or citizens as a constituency, therefore it is important to draw on that as well. So I believe that, and it's kind of, this is a kind of what I think will happen and what I wish happens, so I think that's sort of line there, and I believe that the reclaiming voluntarism is an important part of the agenda that international NGOs should have. Now the last one is a difficult one, because in a sense most international NGOs, unless they need money, keep the corporations on the problem side, which I think is the right side for many of the bigger corporations. But in doing so, international NGOs have tendency of completely not connecting with the profit-making sides. Not all companies are bad, and not all companies are big. And companies have so far been pushed to being socially responsible or accountable, if you can do better, but not actually generate solutions for social justice, eradication of poverty. This is not why Pfizer develops medicines. It's not for social justice. But I think it needs to. So I think there are others who would like to do that as well. So I think it's important for us to. So my hope and proposition is that we need to find a way of working with the companies, and we can't write off the entire sector. Quite clearly, they have influence and resources and linkages, but also they are part of the sort of global system. So how to make that? I don't think we have cracked that. There are various experiments going on. Besides CSR, corporate social responsibility is fine, and them giving money is different thing. But actually, them solving the problem of injustice, poverty, climate change is still a long way to go. I mean, I was in a UN consultation with all the top 40, 50 CEO of Nokia to Coca-Cola. And the conversation there was not that we need to solve the climate crisis, but because there will be a green economy. And we can make more money in the green economy as opposed to climate change can be addressed. I think the bottom lines are still only one there. No, I don't know whether international NGO and broader civil society working